Okay, so picture this. Standing tall at Kennedy Space Center is the monumental Artemis II rocket, just gleaming under the Florida sun. Now, this isn't just any rocket, right? This is our ride back to the moon. But before any astronauts climb aboard, it has to pass one of the most intense, high-stakes final exams you can possibly imagine. So let's dive into this absolutely critical pre-flight test.
So here's what we're going to cover. We're going to follow the entire dramatic story of this test, from the plan for a perfect rehearsal to the first signs that things weren't going right, all the way to the huge decision that had to be made on the launch pad. And we'll see why sometimes a setback can actually be the biggest step forward you can take.
You see, before we send a crew on a 250,000-mile trip around the moon, every single system has got to be perfect. I mean, perfect. And that's where this crucial test comes in, what NASA calls a wet dress rehearsal. Think of it as the ultimate safety check. Now, that word wet is the key here. It literally means they're going to load hundreds of thousands of gallons of super-chilled liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen into the rocket. The goal isn't to launch, not at all. The goal is to stress the system out right here on the ground to find any hidden flaws. It's all about finding problems here on Earth so we don't find them in space. And so, on February 2nd, the day finally arrived. At 11:25 in the morning, the Artemis launch director gave the official go to start fueling up. Just like that, the final exam for the world's most powerful rocket was officially underway. Now, this is not like filling up your car, okay? This is a meticulous, hours-long process. As you can see, the teams first have to connect these vital umbilical lines. Then they begin a really slow, careful fill of those cryogenic propellants. They're constantly running leak checks and topping off the tanks. Because this fuel is so incredibly cold, it's literally boiling away into gas the entire time. It's a real high-stakes ballet of engineering. But you know, in the world of rocketry, the plan is often just a starting point. And as the day turned into night, and that countdown clock ticked ever closer to zero, the team started to hit some turbulence.
The very first sign of trouble came at 8:50 p.m. The countdown, which had been going so smoothly for hours, just stopped. The clock froze solid at the T-minus 10-minute mark. You can just imagine everyone in launch control holding their breath.
So what was it? The initial problem was actually with the Orion spacecraft itself. You know, the capsule where the astronauts are going to sit. During some pressure checks on the crew hatch, a valve was vented by mistake. Now, it was a fixable problem for sure, but it was an unexpected delay that put the team behind schedule. And it was a hint that the night was not going to be an easy one.
And then, the much more serious problem showed up. As the teams were working on that hatch issue, sensors started picking up something way more dangerous. And this official update from NASA, wow, it says it all. A leak, specifically a liquid hydrogen leak at one of the umbilical connections right at the base of the rocket. This wasn't just a delay anymore, this was a major safety concern.
Okay, so you've got the clock ticking, and you've got this persistent hydrogen leak that your team just can't seem to resolve. The mission managers, they were facing a really, really tough call. Do you push forward and risk it, or do you listen to what the data is telling you?
And the decision came down. The launch director called a scrub. The countdown was officially terminated. There were just 5 minutes and 15 seconds left on the practice clock. The rehearsal was over.
Now, this wasn't a failure of nerve. This was a success of procedure. That recurring hydrogen leak was the absolute showstopper. The team followed their safety protocols exactly like they're supposed to, stopped the countdown, and then began the long process of safely draining all that explosive fuel from the rocket.
So after all that drama, it's pretty easy to look at this and call it a failure, right? But that totally misses the entire point of the exercise. This setback was actually a critical part of making sure a future launch would be successful.
This is the key question, isn't it? After months of preparation, a full day of operations, and they didn't even get to the end of the countdown. So was it all for nothing?
Absolutely not. Not even close. And this right here brilliantly explains why. The entire purpose of a wet dress rehearsal is to find these problems. It found a dangerous hydrogen leak safely on the ground, not thousands of feet in the air. This test protected the Artemis II crew. It gave engineers invaluable data to go fix the hardware, and it upheld the #1 rule in human spaceflight, safety first. This wasn't a failure. This was the system working exactly as it was designed.
So as the teams at Kennedy Space Center are analyzing all the data from this successful failure, it leaves us with one last crucial thought. The path back to the moon isn't a straight line. It's a series of tough problems that have to be solved one by one right here on Earth. And the answer to this question, well,
That's what stands between us and the next giant leap.